3 months passed. The Silver Dawn was repaired and flying again. The damage from the raider attack was fixed. The hull was whole. The systems were working. But something else had changed too. Something that could not be measured in metal and power readings. The crew was different. Do-hwan walked through the corridors now with his head held high. He was still human. Still small by Valari standards. Still soft and short-lived and strange. But no one laughed at him anymore. No one tripped him or knocked food from his hands. Instead, they saluted Dot the first time it happened. Do-hwan was so surprised that he almost tripped over his own feet. A tall Valari warrior, covered in scars from a dozen battles, stopped in the corridor and gave him a proper military salute. "Sir," the warrior said. Do-hwan blinked. "I am not an officer." "No, sir. But you are a warrior. That is what matters." The warrior continued on his way. Do-hwan stood there for a long moment, trying to understand what had just happened. That it happened again. And again. And again. Soon, it became normal. The human was part of the crew now. Not a burden. Not a symbol. A member. A brother. Jisoo, fully recovered from her illness, became his closest friend. She would visit his quarters in the evenings, and they would talk about their homes. She told him about the crystal forests of her home world. He told her about the cherry blossoms of Earth. They were so different from such different places. But somehow, they understood each other perfectly. "You changed everything," Jisoo told him one night. "Before you came, I thought humans were beneath us. I thought you were weak and foolish and unimportant. But you showed us something we had forgotten. What is that?" Do-hwan asked. "That strength is not just about power. It is about heart, about spirit, about the choice to keep fighting when everything tells you to give up." Jisoo smiled. "You taught us that, Do-hwan. You taught the entire ship." Taiwu had changed too. The stern second-in-command, who had once mocked Do-hwan in the observation deck, now treated him with deep respect. He even apologized one day, standing stiff and formal in front of the human. "I was wrong about you," Taiwu said. "I judged you by your body instead of your actions. That was my failure, not yours. I hope you can forgive me." Do-hwan just smiled and offered his hand. Taiwu stared at it for a moment, confused. Then Do-hwan explained that on Earth, a handshake was a sign of friendship and respect. Taiwu took his hand and shook it firmly. From that day on, they trained together. Taiwu taught Do-hwan Valari combat techniques. Do-hwan taught Taiwu Earth martial arts. They sparred in the training halls while crew members gathered to watch. An unlikely pair. A strange friendship. But the biggest change was Yuna. The commander had become a different person. Not entirely. She was still strong. Still proud. Still fierce in battle and sharp in command. But there was something softer in her now. Something warmer. She spent time with Do-hwan every day. They ate meals together. They walked through the ship together. They stood on the observation deck and watched the stars together. And they talked. Really talked. About their lives. Their fears. Their dreams. "I was afraid once," Yuna admitted one evening. They were alone on the observation deck, looking out at a beautiful nebula of purple and gold. "When I was young, before I became a warrior, I was small and weak and everyone said I would never amount to anything. What changed?" Do-hwan asked. "I decided to prove them wrong. I trained harder than anyone else. I fought harder. I pushed myself until I became the strongest. Until no one could ever call me weak again." She paused. "But I think, in doing that, I lost something. I became so focused on strength that I forgot about kindness. I forgot about connection. I forgot about love." Do-hwan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You did not lose those things. You just put them away for a while. They were always inside you, waiting. Yuna turned to look at him. Her purple eyes were soft, almost vulnerable. How do you know? Because you are here now, with me. A person who truly had no heart would not be standing here. They would not have stayed by my bed while I was hurt. They would not have opened themselves to change. Daohuan smiled. You are stronger than you know, Yuna. And I do not mean your body or your fighting skills. I mean your spirit, your soul. Yuna felt tears threatening again. She still was not used to crying. It still felt strange and uncomfortable. But with Daohuan, she was learning that showing emotion was not weakness, it was courage. I want to be better, she said. For you. For our crew. For everyone. You already are, Daohuan replied. Every day, you are better than the day before. That is all any of us can do. News spread through the galaxy. The story of the Silver Dawn became famous. People on 100 worlds heard about the human who had saved a Valari warship, who had fixed their shields with knowledge he had quietly gathered, who had held a corridor against 20 raiders with nothing but a metal bar and the refusal to die. The Galactic Council was amazed. Other species began to look at humans differently. These small, soft creatures were not as weak as everyone thought. They had something inside them, something that could not be measured or understood by normal standards. Within a year, everything changed. The Valari Empire formally requested more human advisors and officers to serve on their ships. Other empires followed. Humans, once ignored and dismissed, became some of the most valued members of galactic society, not because they were strong, not because they had weapons or technology, but because they had hearts that would not quit, because they would stand beside you when everything was falling apart, because they loved without conditions and fought without surrender. Daohuan and Yuna stood at the viewport of the Silver Dawn, watching the stars drift past. 2 years had passed since their first meeting. 2 years of struggle and growth and change. Yuna held Daohuan's hand. Her silver fingers were wrapped around his brown ones. Such different colors. Such different beings. But together, they fit perfectly. I was wrong about your species, Yuna said softly. It was not the first time she had said these words, but she said them differently now. Not with surprise or confusion. With love. We have a saying on Earth, Daohuan replied. Love is patient. Yuna smiled. It was still strange to see her smile. For so long, her face had been made of ice and stone. But now, when she smiled, she was the most beautiful thing Daohuan had ever seen. I understand that saying now, Yuna said. You were patient with me. When I was cold. When I was cruel. When I gave you nothing but hate. You waited. You kept loving me, even when I gave you no reason to. That is what love is, Daohuan said simply. It is not about what you receive. It is about what you give. Yuna turned to face him. She bent down slightly so that their eyes were level. Her purple gaze met his brown one. I love you, she said. It was the first time she had said those words. The first time in her entire life. They felt strange on her tongue. Strange but right. Daohuan's eyes filled with happiness. After everything. After all the pain and the struggle and the doubt. After holding that corridor while his body broke. After lying in that medical bed, wondering if he would ever wake up. After all of it, he had reached this moment. I love you too, he said. I always have. From the moment I saw you in the council hall, I knew you were special. I knew you were worth waiting for. They stood together in silence, holding each other. Outside the viewport, the universe stretched on forever. Billions of stars. Trillions of worlds. An infinity of possibilities. And somewhere in all that vastness, two people had found each other. A Valari commander and a human captain. Ice and warmth. Pride and humility. Strength and heart together. The Silver Dawn continued its journey through the stars. Its crew worked and laughed and lived. They were not the same crew that had left the council station 2 years ago. They were better, stronger, not in their bodies, but in their spirits. One human had done that. One small, soft, impossible human dot, and the galaxy would never forget. Perhaps weakness and strength were not so different after all. Perhaps they were just different faces of the same thing. Perhaps the truest strength was found not in muscles or weapons, but in the courage to love when love seems hopeless. To hope when hope seems foolish. To stand when everything tells you to fall. Humans understood this. They had always understood it, and now, finally, the galaxy was beginning to understand it too. This was not an ending, it was a beginning, a new dawn. The medical bay was quiet. The lights were dim. The only sounds were the soft beeping of machines and the gentle hum of the ship's engines. Do-Hwan lay on a medical bed. His body was covered in bandages. Tubes ran into his arms, feeding him medicine and nutrients. His face was pale. His breathing was shallow. He looked like a broken doll. Dr. Murray stood beside his bed, checking the readings on her console. Her old eyes were troubled. She had treated thousands of patients in her long career. She had seen warriors survive terrible wounds. She had seen the strongest Valari fight their way back from death. But she had never seen anything like this human. His injuries are extensive, she told Yuna, who stood in the doorway. Broken ribs, punctured lung, internal bleeding, deep cuts on his arms, legs, and torso. His left arm has fractures in 3 places. By all medical knowledge, he should be dead. Yuna said nothing. She stared at the human on the bed. But he is not dead, Myre continued. His body is fighting. His heart is strong. A song. His will to live is. She paused, searching for the right word. Remarkable? Will he survive? Yuna asked. Her voice was flat, emotionless. I do not know. Human biology is different from ours. We are doing our best, but we are learning as we go. Myre looked at her commander with knowing eyes. He saved us, you know? The shields. The corridor. Without him, we would all be dead. Yuna still said nothing. She stood there for a long moment, looking at Do-Hwan's broken body. Then she turned and walked away. But she came back that night. She came back the next. Night 2, and the night after that, she never stayed long. She never said anything. She just stood in the shadows of the medical bay and watched the human breathe. She watched his chest rise and fall. She watched the machines track his heartbeat. She did not understand why she was there. She did not understand the strange feeling in her chest. It was not gratitude. It was not admiration. It was something else. Something she had no name for. On the 4th night, Do-Hwan opened his eyes. Yuna was there, standing in her usual spot in the shadows. She froze when she saw him wake. For a moment, she thought about leaving, running away before he could see her, but she did not run. Commander Yuna did not run from anything. Do-Hwan's dark eyes moved slowly around the room. They were clouded with pain and medication. But when they found Yuna, they cleared slightly. A small spark of recognition appeared. Commander, he whispered. His voice was weak, rough. You are here. Yuna stepped out of the shadows. She walked to his bedside. Her face was hard, cold, but her hands were trembling slightly at her sides. Why? She demanded. The word came out harsh, almost angry. Do-Hwan blinked slowly. Why what? Why did you do it? Why did you risk your life? You could have hidden. You could have stayed safe. No one would have blamed you. You are human. You are weak. You are not supposed to fight. Do-hwan was quiet for a moment. He seemed to be gathering his strength. When he spoke, his voice was soft but clear. You are my wife, Yuna. The words hit her like a physical blow. She actually took a step backward. Her purple eyes went wide. Her silver skin turned pale. What did you say? She whispered. You are my wife, Do-hwan repeated. The treaty made us married. You may not accept it. You may not want it. But it is true. And humans protect what they love, even when it does not love them back. Yuna felt her heart pounding in her chest. Her thoughts were spinning. This was impossible. This was madness. This human, this weak, small, foolish human, was saying things that made no sense. You dare call me your wife? She gasped. The words came out before she could stop them. I have never accepted you. I have never treated you as a husband. I have given you nothing but coldness and contempt. Do-hwan smiled. That same simple, genuine smile that she had seen on the day they first met. The smile that had confused her then. The smile that confused her even more now. I know, he said softly. But love is not about what you receive. It is about what you give. From the moment I agreed to this marriage, you became my family, my responsibility, my purpose. I would protect you, whether you wanted me to or not. That is what humans do. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. She was horrified. She was Commander Yuna. She did not cry. She had not cried since she was a child, but the tears came anyway. You almost died, she said. Her voice broke on the words. You almost died for people who hate you, for a wife who has treated you like dirt. Why? Why would anyone do that? Do-hwan reached out with his good hand. Slowly, painfully, he touched her fingers. His skin was warm against her silver coldness. Because hate can become love, he said. Because strangers can become family. Because the universe is cold and dark, and the only way to survive is to care for each other, even when it hurts, even when it seems hopeless. That is what I believe. That is what Earth taught me. Yuna looked down at his hand touching hers. Such a small gesture, such a simple thing, but it felt like the most significant moment of her entire life. I do not understand you, she whispered. You do not have to understand me, Do-hwan replied. You just have to give me a chance. They stayed like that for a long time. The commander and the human. The ice and the warmth. The hatred and the hope. Finally, Yuna spoke. Her voice was quiet, uncertain, nothing like her usual commanding tone. I have been wrong about your species, she said. The galaxy says humans are weak. We point to your small bodies, your short lives, your lack of natural weapons. We measure strength in claws and fangs in armor. She paused. When she continued, there was wonder in her voice. But we never measured your hearts. We never measured your spirits. We never understood that strength can come from places we cannot see. Do-hwan squeezed her fingers gently. Every species has its own kind of strength. The Valari are powerful warriors. Your empire has lasted 10,000 years. That is not weakness. That is incredible. But we would have died today, Yuna said. Without you, we would all be dead. One human saved 3,000 Valari. How is that possible? Do-hwan thought about the question. He thought about Earth, about his home, about all the stories he had grown up with. Humans have a saying, he finally said. We say that the smallest person can change the course of the future. We believe that it is not the size of the body that matters, but the size of the courage inside it. We have survived for thousands of years, not because we are strong, but because we refuse to give up. Yuna nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand. Not everything. Not yet. But something. A beginning. I have to tell the council what happened here, she said. They need to know what you did. The entire galaxy needs to know. Tell them whatever you want, Dowan said. I did not do it for recognition. I did it because it was right. Yuna looked at him. Really looked at him. For the first time, she did not see a weak human. She did not see a burden or a tool or a symbol. She saw a person. A remarkable, impossible, wonderful person. I'm going to stay with you, she said. While you recover, I'm going to stay by your side. Dowan's eyes widened slightly. You do not have to do that. You have duties, responsibilities. Yes, I do. Yuna sat down in the chair beside his bed. The same chair he had sat in for Jisoo. And right now, my responsibility is here. With my husband. She said the last word carefully, testing it. Feeling how it sounded coming from her lips. It sounded strange, foreign, but it also sounded right. Dowan smiled at her. Not his usual calm smile. Something bigger. Something full of hope and joy and relief. Thank you, Yuna. It was the first time he had called her by her name alone. Without her title. Without formality. It was the first time she did not mind. Outside the medical bay, the crew of the Silver Dawn whispered to each other. They had heard rumors. They had seen their commander entering the medical bay night after night. They had seen the way she looked when she emerged. Something was changing. Something was beginning. And somehow, impossibly, a single human was at the center of it all. The Silver Dawn was traveling through the Void Passage. It was a shortcut through a region of empty space between two star systems. Most ships avoided it. There were no stations nearby, no planets, no help if something went wrong. But the Silver Dawn was a warship. The crew was confident. Nothing in this part of space could threaten them. They were wrong. The attack came without warning. 12 ships appeared from nowhere. They had been hiding behind a cloud of dark matter, invisible to sensors. Their weapons fired before anyone could react. The first blast hit the Silver Dawn's main shield generator. The second hit the weapons control center. The third hit the communication array. In less than 10 seconds. The greatest warship in the Valari fleet was crippled. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Crew members ran in all directions, trying to reach their battle stations. But there was confusion, panic, fear. Yuna stood on the bridge, shouting orders. Her purple eyes burned with fury. Get the shields back online. Return fire. Someone tell me who is attacking us. Taiwu worked frantically at his console. Commander, it is the Black Hand. Raiders, mercenaries. They must have been waiting for us. The Black Hand. Yuna knew the name. They were criminals who attacked ships and stations throughout the galaxy. They killed crews. They took cargo. They showed no mercy. And now they had caught the Silver Dawn by surprise. Shields are not responding, one officer shouted. Main power is failing. We cannot charge the weapons. Engineering, report. Yuna demanded. The response came through broken static. Commander, main reactor damaged. Need 20 minutes. To fix. They did not have 20 minutes. The raider ships moved closer. They were preparing to board. In minutes, hundreds of armed criminals would be flooding through the corridors of the Silver Dawn. They would kill everyone. They would take everything. Yuna drew her weapon. If she was going to die, she would die fighting. All crew, prepare for close combat. Protect the reactor room at all costs. We cannot let them take the ship. The crew responded with grim determination. They were Valari warriors. They would not run. They would not surrender, but they knew the truth. Without weapons, without shields, against 12 ships full of raiders. They would lose Dot in his small quarters. Dohan felt the ship shake from the explosions. He heard the alarms. He understood immediately what was happening. He stood up and walked out into the corridor. Crew members ran past him, heading to battle stations. Some of them looked at him with surprise. What was the human doing? Why was he not hiding? Dohan grabbed the arm of a passing officer. "Where's the damage worst?" The officer, a young male named Hyunsu, stared at him. "The shield generator. Deck 7. "Why do you ask?" "Show me." Hyunsu did not understand, but something in Dohan's voice made him obey. They ran together through the shaking corridors. Smoke filled the air. Sparks flew from damaged panels. The ship groaned like a wounded animal. They reached Deck 7. The shield generator room was a mess. Cables hung from the ceiling. Consoles had exploded. 3 engineers lay unconscious on the floor. The main generator was dark, dead. Hyunsu looked at Dohan with desperate eyes. "It is destroyed. We cannot fix it. We need a new generator, and we do not have one." Dohan walked to the main console. He began to type. His fingers moved fast, faster than Hyunsu had ever seen a human move. "What are you doing?" Hyunsu asked. "The main generator is gone," Dohan said without looking up. "But the backup power systems are still working. If I can reroute the energy flow through the secondary conduits, we can create a partial shield. It will not be full strength, but it will stop their weapons long enough for your engineers to fix the main systems." Hyunsu's eyes went wide. "How do you know how to do that?" "I watched. I learned. Your engineers explained their systems to each other while I was nearby. They thought I was just a stupid human who did not understand." Dohan allowed himself a small smile. They were wrong. His fingers flew across the console. Power readings began to change. Systems began to wake up. Outside, the raider ships were preparing their final attack. Their captain, a cruel being with red skin and black eyes, laughed at the helpless warship. "Fire everything. Break them apart." The weapons fired Dot, and then something impossible happened. The silver, dawn shields flickered to life. The blasts hit the shield and scattered into harmless light. The raider captain screamed in rage. "Impossible. Their generator was destroyed. How are they doing this?" He did not get an answer, because at that moment, the Silver Dawn's emergency weapons came online. They were not powerful enough to destroy the raider ships, but they were powerful enough to hurt them. The raiders pulled back, confused and angry. On the bridge, Eunice stared at her console in disbelief. "How? Who fixed the shields?" Taiwu checked the reports. His face became very strange. "Commander." It was the human. He rerouted power from the secondary systems. "He's in the generator room on Deck 7. Eunice said nothing. She could not find words, but there was no time to think about it, because the raiders were not finished. If they could not destroy the ship from outside, they would destroy it from inside. "Boarding parties detected," an officer shouted. "They are cutting through the hull on Decks 3, 4, and 5. The real fight was about to begin. Dohan heard the reports through the ship's communication system. The raiders were boarding. They were coming through multiple entry points. The Valari security teams were spreading out to meet them, but Deck 4 was poorly defended. Most of the crew there had been moved to other locations. Only a handful of guards remained, and Deck 4 led directly to the reactor room. Dohan made a decision. He turned to Hyunsu. "Keep the shields running. Do not let them fail." "Where are you going?" Hyunsu asked. "Deck 4. Someone needs to slow them down." Hyunsu grabbed his arm. "You are human. You have no weapon. You have no armor. You will die." Dohan looked at him with those calm brown eyes. Maybe, but if they reach the reactor, everyone dies. I can give your people time. That is enough." He pulled his arm free and ran. Hyon-Su watched him go. He did not understand. No Valari would do what this human was doing. It was not logical. It was not smart. It was suicide. But it was also something else. Something Hyon-Su did not have a word for. Do-hwan reached Deck 4 just as the raiders broke through. There were 20 of them. Big, armored, armed with plasma rifles and energy blades. They were killers, professionals. And in their way stood one human with no weapon. The raider leader looked at Do-hwan and laughed. "What is this? A pet? Move aside, little thing, and we might let you live." Do-hwan did not move. "This corridor leads to the reactor. You are not going through." The raiders laughed harder. One of them raised his rifle. "Last chance, human. Move or die." Do-hwan took a deep breath. He thought of Earth. He thought of the oceans and the mountains and the people he loved. He thought of Yuna, who hated him. He thought of Jisu, who he had helped. He thought of all the Valari on this ship who saw him as nothing. He was going to protect them anyway. "No," he said. The raider fired. Do-hwan moved. He had trained his body for years. Humans were not strong. Humans were not fast. But humans were adaptable. Humans could learn. And Do-hwan had learned how to survive. He dodged the first shot. He grabbed a metal bar from a damaged wall. He swung it at the nearest raider's knee. The raider fell with a scream. The others rushed forward. Do-hwan fought like a wild animal. He used the walls. He used the ceiling. He used every piece of broken equipment as a weapon. He took hits. A blade cut his arm. A fist broke his ribs. A kick sent him flying into a wall, but he got up. Every time. He got up. The raiders could not believe it. This tiny, soft creature was not dying. He should have been dead 10 times over. But he kept fighting. He kept standing in their way. They did not understand what they were seeing. They did not understand that humans had something other species did not have. Stubbornness. Pure, unbreakable stubbornness. Do-hwan held that corridor for 7 minutes. 7 minutes of pain and blood and impossible determination. When the Valari security team finally arrived, they found 12 raiders unconscious on the floor. 8 had retreated. And in the middle of the corridor, still standing on shaking legs, was one human. His body was broken. Blood ran down his face. His left arm hung useless at his side, but he was still standing. He looked at the Valari soldiers with dim eyes. "The reactor," he whispered. "Is it safe?" "Yes," the team leader said. She could not believe what she was seeing. "It is safe." Do-hwan smiled. That same simple smile. Then he collapsed. The battle ended an hour later. The raider ships retreated when Valari reinforcements arrived. The Silver Dawn was damaged but alive. The crew was shaken but victorious, and in the medical bay, surrounded by doctors who had never treated a human before, Do-hwan lay unconscious. His heart was still beating. Barely. The Silver Dawn moved through space like a great silver fish swimming through a dark ocean. Inside its metal walls, 3,000 Valari crew members worked, trained, and lived. They were soldiers, warriors, the best of their kind. And among them, one human. Do-hwan's quarters were exactly what Yuna had ordered. Small, cold. The room was barely big enough for a bed and a small table. The walls were plain gray metal. There was one tiny window that showed the stars outside. The food that came to his door twice a day was simple, nutritious but tasteless. The kind of food given to prisoners. But Do-hwan did not complain. On his first morning aboard the ship, he woke up early. He made his bed neatly. He ate his food without comment. Then he stepped out of his quarters and began to walk. The Valari crew members who saw him stopped and stared. Some of them laughed. Some of them whispered to each other. A few of them blocked his path on purpose, forcing him to walk around them. Do-hwan just smiled and nodded at each one. "Good morning," he said in their language. His accent was not perfect, but he had learned their words. "Nice to meet you." Most of them said nothing back. Some of them made rude gestures. One tall Valari warrior spat on the floor near his feet. Do-hwan just kept walking. He explored the ship slowly over the next few days. He learned where everything was. The engine rooms, the training halls, the medical bay, the dining areas, the observation decks. He memorized the paths. He memorized the faces, and he memorized the names. "Hello, Jisoo," he said to a young female officer one morning. She was cleaning a control panel in one of the hallways. She was small for a Valari, with silver skin that had a slightly blue tint. Her purple eyes went wide with surprise. You know my name?" she asked. Do-hwan nodded. "I asked around. You work in communications, right? I heard you were very good at your job." Jisoo did not know what to say. No one had ever complimented her work before. She was young and low-ranked. Most officers did not even see her. "Thank you," she finally said. Her voice was quiet and confused. Do-hwan smiled. "Keep up the good work." Then he walked away, leaving Jisoo staring after him. Word spread through the ship. The human was strange. He did not act like a prisoner should act. He did not hide in his room. He did not cry or beg. He walked around like he belonged there. He learned their names. He spoke their language. He was friendly. Some of the crew found this amusing. They started to test him. They would trip him in hallways. They would accidentally knock food from his hands. They would call him names in their language, thinking he did not understand. Do-hwan always understood. But he never got angry. He just picked himself up, cleaned the mess, and kept going. One evening, Taiwu found Do-hwan in the observation deck. The human was sitting alone, looking out at the stars. Taiwu was a proud warrior. He had killed many enemies. He respected strength. He did not respect humans. "Why are you here?" Taiwu asked. His voice was harsh. Do-hwan did not turn around. "Looking at the stars. They are beautiful." "That is not what I meant. Why did you agree to this marriage? Your people must have other options. Stronger options." Do-hwan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "My people believe in peace. When the council asked for a volunteer, I raised my hand." Taiwu laughed. It was a cold, mocking laugh. "You volunteered? To marry someone who hates you? To live on a ship where everyone wishes you were dead?" "Yes." Taiwu shook his head. "You humans are even more foolish than I thought." He turned and left. But as he walked away, something bothered him. The human had not seemed sad. He had not seemed angry. He had just answered the question simply, as if volunteering for this terrible fate was the most natural thing in the world. Taiwu did not understand. And things we do not understand often frighten us. 2 weeks passed. Then something happened that changed everything. Jisoo collapsed during her shift. The young officer fell to the floor in the middle of the communications room. Her silver skin had turned pale gray. Her body was burning with fever. Her breathing was fast and weak. The medical team came quickly. They carried her to the medical bay. The doctors ran tests. The results were bad. She had the gray fever. It was a rare disease among the Valari. It attacked the body slowly. The fever would last for days. Most patients survived, but the recovery was long and painful. And during the worst of the fever, patients often lost hope. They would give up. They would stop fighting. Many of them died not from the disease, but from despair. Jisoo had no family on the ship. She was alone. The doctors did what they could, but medicine could only do so much. She needed someone to stay with her. Someone to keep her spirit strong. No one volunteered. Everyone was too busy. Everyone had more important things to do. Except one person. Do-hwan appeared at the medical bay on the first night. He walked past the surprised doctors and sat down in the chair next to Jisoo's bed. "What are you doing here, human?" the head doctor asked. Her name was Mireille. She was old and stern and had no patience for foolishness. "I heard Jisoo was sick," Do-hwan said. "She is my friend. I want to stay with her." Mireille stared at him. "Your friend?" "She is Velari. You are human. You have spoken to her perhaps 3 times. 3 times is enough to become friends." Myra did not know how to respond. No Velari would say something like that. Friendship took years to build. Trust had to be earned through action and time. You did not become friends with someone after 3 conversations. But Do-hwan was not Velari. He stayed by Jisoo's bed that night. And the next night. And the night after that. He talked to her constantly. When she was awake, he asked her questions about her life, her family, her dreams. When she was asleep, he told her stories. Stories about Earth, about the blue oceans and the green forests, about the mountains that touched the clouds and the rivers that sang as they flowed. He told her about human festivals, about how people would gather to watch fireworks paint the sky with color, about how families would share food and laughter on special days, about how strangers would help each other during hard times. "On Earth," he said softly, "we have a belief. We believe that no one should face darkness alone. When one person suffers, others should share that burden. That is what makes us human." Jisoo's fever raged for 3 days. There were moments when her body shook so badly that Do-hwan had to hold her hands to keep her still. There were moments when she cried out in fear and confusion. There were moments when she whispered that she wanted to give up. Each time, Do-hwan was there. He held her hand. He wiped the sweat from her face. He spoke to her in a gentle voice. "You are strong, Jisoo. You are stronger than you know. The fever will pass. The darkness will end. And when you open your eyes, I will be here. I promise." On the 4th day, the fever broke. Jisoo opened her eyes slowly. The first thing she saw was Do-hwan, still sitting in the chair beside her bed. He looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes. He had not slept in days, but when he saw that she was awake, he smiled. That same simple, genuine smile. "Welcome back," he said. Jisoo felt tears roll down her silver cheeks. She did not understand this human. She did not understand why he had stayed, why he had cared, why he had fought so hard for someone who meant nothing to him. "Why?" she whispered. Do-hwan thought for a moment. Then he said, "Because you were alone. And no one should be alone." Word of what Do-hwan did spread through the ship like fire. The crew talked about it in whispers. The human had stayed with a dying Velari for 3 days. He had refused to leave. He had refused to give up. Some of them still mocked him. Some of them still hated him. But some of them began to wonder, what kind of creature was this? What kind of heart did he have? In her command room, Yuna heard the reports. She listened in silence. Her face showed nothing, but deep inside, in a place she tried to ignore, something small began to change. A crack appeared in the wall of ice around her heart. She told herself it meant nothing. She was wrong. The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds sat in their seats, watching, waiting. The air itself felt heavy with tension. Commander Yuna stood at the center of the hall. Her silver skin caught the light from the floating crystals above. She was tall, almost 7 feet, with eyes that glowed soft purple. Her white hair fell past her shoulders like water. She was beautiful in the way a storm is beautiful. Dangerous. Powerful. Cold. She represented the Valari Empire. Her people had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They were strong. They were proud. They had never lost a war. Until now. The war with the Keth had lasted 50 years. Both sides had lost billions of lives. Entire planets had turned to ash. The Valari had won, but the cost was terrible. Their empire was weak. Their enemies were watching. They needed time to recover. And so the council had proposed something that made Yuna's blood burn with anger. A marriage. Not just any marriage. A political union between the Valari Empire and another species. A show of alliance. A symbol of peace and cooperation. The council had chosen humans. Yuna wanted to laugh. She wanted to scream. Humans? The weakest species in the galaxy. They lived for barely 100 years. They had no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs. No armor on their soft pink skin. They could not see in the dark. They could not hear sounds from far away. They were small and fragile and completely unremarkable. The galaxy had a saying about humans. They were the species that survived by accident. And now Yuna was supposed to marry one. The door at the far end of the hall opened. Yuna turned her purple eyes toward it. She would see this human. She would judge him. And then she would find a way to end this foolish arrangement. A man walked in. He was not tall. Perhaps 5 feet and 10 inches by human measurement. He wore a simple uniform. Dark blue with silver buttons. His hair was black and cut short. His eyes were dark brown. His face was calm. He walked toward the center of the hall with steady steps. He did not look nervous. He did not look afraid. He just walked, as if this were any normal day. Yuna felt her anger grow. Did this human not understand what was happening? Did he not know who she was? She had destroyed fleets. She had conquered worlds. She had stood on the bridges of dying ships and laughed at death. And this small, soft creature walked toward her like he was taking a morning stroll. His name was Dohwan. Captain Dohwan of Earth's small fleet. He was 32 years old. He had fought in 3 battles during the war. He had saved 2 ships from destruction. He was considered a hero on Earth. To Yuna, he was nothing. Dohwan stopped a few feet away from her. He looked up at her face. She was taller than him by almost a full foot. Most beings would shrink under her gaze. Most would look away. Most would show some sign of fear. Dohwan just looked at her with those calm brown eyes. Then he did something that surprised everyone in the hall. He bowed. Not a small nod. A full bow. Deep and respectful. The kind of bow that her own people gave to their elders. He held it for 3 seconds. Then he stood straight again. "Commander Yuna," he said. His voice was quiet but clear. "I am honored to meet you. I have heard of your victories. Your people should be proud." Yuna said nothing. She stared at him with cold eyes. The council speaker, an old being with gray scales and tired eyes, stood up. "The treaty has been agreed upon by all parties. The marriage between Commander Yuna of the Valari Empire and Captain Dohwan of Earth will take place in 1 week. May this union bring peace and prosperity to all." The hall filled with the sound of applause. Beings from every world clapped and cheered. This was a historic moment. A new chapter in galactic history. Yuna did not clap. She did not move. She just stared at the human in front of her. Dohwan met her gaze. And then, very slightly, he smiled. It was not a mocking smile. It was not a nervous smile. It was just a smile. Simple and genuine. As if he was saying, "I know this is strange, but it will be okay." Yuna felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt confused. After the ceremony, Yuna walked through the corridors of the council station. Her officers followed behind her, their boots clicking on the metal floor. "Commander," one of them said. His name was Taiwu. He was her second in command, a loyal soldier with scars on his silver face. "What do you want us to do with the human?" Yuna kept walking. "Put him in the smallest quarters on the ship. Give him basic food. He's not to attend any meetings. He's not to speak to anyone unless I allow it." Taiwu nodded. "And the wedding ceremony? We will follow the minimum requirements of the treaty. Nothing more. I will not pretend to honor this arrangement." They reached the docking bay. Yuna's flagship waited there. The Silver Dawn. It was massive, nearly 2 kilometers long. It had survived 20 major battles. It was her home, and now she would have to share it with a human. She stopped at the entrance ramp and turned to look back. Across the docking bay, she could see Doan. He was standing with 2 human guards, looking at the ships around him. He seemed curious, interested, like a child seeing new things. As if sensing her gaze, he turned his head. Their eyes met across the distance. Daohan raised his hand in a small wave. Yuna turned away without responding. She walked up the ramp and into her ship. The door closed behind her with a heavy sound. She told herself she would never accept this human. She would never call him husband. She would never treat him as anything more than what he was. A symbol, a tool, a necessary burden. She was Commander Yuna of the Valari Empire. She had never been wrong about anything. But as her ship left the station and jumped into the darkness between stars, she could not forget that simple wave, that calm smile, those brown eyes that showed no fear. For the first time in her long life, Yuna wondered if perhaps she had met something she did not understand. The thought bothered her more than she wanted to admit.